Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. Today is the 26th day of February 2022, and I wanted to talk to you a site I recommend that some would go to if you want to basically educate yourself and understand certain issues. This is not going to be a long video, and I want to share this with you. The site is called, what am I looking at here? Here it is. Okay. Nope. This is a site I'm looking at. This is called the Academy of Ideas, Three Minds for a Free Society. This is a particular video that this gentleman has done. He's done quite a few videos. I think this would be well worth people looking into. I think the cost per month is, I think it's $6 or $8. I try to remember. It's not that expensive, but it's well worth your time to educate yourself. He also not only gives you the information he reads from it, but he also gives you artwork in dealing with this whole issue, obedience, and the rise of authoritarianism. Why is this happening? Why was the last century from 1900 to 1999 one of the most bloody centuries in the world's history? And why did that take place? Well, a lot of it has to do with simply is that people no longer were willing to stand for certain issues and were willing to simply allow whoever was in power as being the authority and that they would not speak out. We're sort of in that situation now, except I think we're far worse shape than we were, um, you know, in the past. You see, we're now in 2022, 22 years since, well, 23 years since that's happened, basically. So a lot of things are taking place, such and such. And it seems like man is still doesn't want to look, doesn't want to face his fears. And one of his fears simply is that he believes that he's inferior and that others are his authorities. And that's why we vote. We give other people authority over our lives, which is another lie out there. And you're the authority. You rule over yourself. It's called self-government. That means simply is I don't do any harm to anybody. I don't seek out to hurt anybody. You see, and that's what people forget. You see, I'm not here to do harm, but I'm here to not only to evolve, become greater in my life, but also to do no harm. And natural law is all about that. You see, and natural law sees everyone is on the same plane. Everyone's equal. You see, but most people don't want to do that because that means responsibility, and people don't want to be responsible these days. They don't want to be irresponsible. They give that to so and so, and that's why a lot of people don't want higher positions in jobs because they don't want to deal with the responsibility. And I understand part of one of the things that when I was involved in the business, well, not in the business world, but working at a very young age in my college years, was to do with managers. I was a second shift manager, such and such, and it always was dealing with what we call people problems. People wouldn't get along with each other at work, and so the manager, in some ways, would have to always deal with the adults, but they were like children. You see, they couldn't solve their problems, so they had to go and mediate with somebody else, which is the manager. And most people, and I don't want to do that job neither in that particular situation because you can't win in that way because it's hard to get people to compromise. But anyway, I've digressed it a little bit off this subject here, but the point simply is that most people just don't want to deal with it. And most people nowadays simply is you can. This is why entertainment's such a big deal because people are working all the time. They want to escape. They want to escape so badly, and that's why entertainment's here. That's why people pay money, grand amount of money, to escape. We can talk about sports, we can talk about movies, or anything to escape reality. In fact, Gurdjieff and others, Richard Rose spoke of simply as that Gurdjieff said that the men are asleep. And Richard Rose was said, well, men are more like robots. And robots simply just take commands and do whatever they're told to do. It is interesting when you think about that phenomenon, how these ideas are planted into the psyche of people. For example, the deals with the movies were about science fiction. Science isn't that amazing, the word science fiction? Think about it. Science is the opposite of fiction. Fiction is not dealing with the facts. You see, that's an oxymoron statement when you say science fiction. It doesn't work because which is what they were trying to do, is like what we call make believe, so to speak. So science is supposed to be getting to the crux of the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so to speak. They want to know why are we here, or what's out there beyond us. Are there planets such and such? What is such a thing as space? Well, what is space, such and such? But anyway, the whole idea of science fiction, the whole idea of utopia is another grand scheme of what they do. So they plant these ideas in early ages of people's lives, or even later. And then they come along and say, here, we've got this. This is what we're going to do. You'll have a car of tomorrow, in the 1950s and 60s. And it was based upon, well, your car eventually will be able to fly up in the air, and you won't have to have roads and such and such. Well, that was, 60 years ago, and we're still driving on roads here, folks. So you see, this is all planted into it. And then they use it still to plant these things. And science fiction is the same way. We never went to the moon, but that's fiction. But yet that's the science. We made it there, and then there all this craziness that goes on, folks. So they also plant these ideas in your brain so that when they do bring these things out, you say, "Oh yeah, that's right. They were going to do this. They've done it now. Isn't that great?" You see. So this is how they do you. You don't even have your own thoughts anymore. You don't even have your own thoughts. In fact, most of us never come up with a new idea, ever. It's been borrowed from somebody else. Now, I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying simply is that's what we see today is simply as most people, because we borrow from all these so-called people, but do we know these people really actually exist? We're told they are, but the word history, meaning his story, it's a story. So is it true? And we know also that the point is that in anything that takes place, those who win a war or battle, they write the story. They write the story. So they produce their own history. See what you can go for the Egyptians when they eventually were taken over by the Greeks, by Alexander the Great. And what happened was simply is they used what the Egyptians had and they transformed it to Greek philosophy and said, Greeks. So in other words, simply, they didn't want to give any emphasis or credit to the Egyptians. They want to take all the credit. And it's the same way. That's how they belittle countries in that past. We'll say, well, gee, Egypt was just, they're not that important. We're the Greeks. You see, we're the ones that now in control, you see. And then later on, simply would be the Romans, you see. That's how this always transpires. And someone takes over, then they rewrite the story. So that's why we don't know if any of this is actually even true of what we're told history. But anyway, I said this would be short, so it's about 10 minutes, and so I better conclude. So I wish you a good evening. You take care. Thank you for listening. Good night.